But in this case, if you host both things in the same data center, apparently the latest latency was really milliseconds lower on container apps than it was on app service. So 100% of the traffic actually went there. So I didn't expect that. It's like, no, I put it 50-50. It's like, well, why is the old one not used? Like, it was fun to see that that difference. Also explainable.
Hey there, welcome to Beta Talks, the podcast. I am Rick.
And I'm Oscar.
And today, it's just us.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. So Oscar, today we'll do one just between the two of us because we have some stuff to talk about. Based on the journey that the company you work for has made over the past couple of years, right?
Yeah, I thought it would be interesting to talk about some recent migrations we did. We at VirtualVaults are now around 10 years old.
And you were born in the cloud software.
Born in the cloud. So it is interesting to see what the technology did. And of course, lately we've been busy with AI and all that stuff. But
buzzword check.
Buzzword check. So put it in. We had all the serverless and all the. We skipped the VM part. So even the modern company jumping right on there, and we promoted that stuff in the beginning.
So you went the platform as a service route, right?
Yeah, platform as a service route. So in years and years, you still see that you are evolving, and what does it mean if you also continue evolving? Because we could have stayed in. Well, I don't think we can run cloud services anymore, but that's where we started.
Well, we have extended support for cloud.
Oh yeah, you're Microsoft, so we have extended support.
No, but there's extended support for cloud services, so it's still possible to run them. Although I do think that right now there's probably better options out there than to just run a cloud service. Yeah.
So we started cloud service, and we had some workers and some web part, and I think we only had couple of them, like 2 big ones or something in the beginning for the platform. But straight away, Azure Storage and SQL DBs. So that was a bit the beginning there.
That was the time when deploying the application, if it was on a cloud service and a web role, that it took like 20 to 25 minutes before it was actually deployed, right?
Yep. That's what because basically it was building you would put a package there and it will build a VM in the background. It will spin it up and start it working, and then you could swap it out. So it was but it was faster than ordering some hardware, what we used to do.
Very
before that. No, but so from that time, I think we already did some things with messaging. I think I saw the 2015 when our service bus was created. Then you can see it like we're still using a lot of concepts, but a lot of the parts actually got swapped out. In 2016, we started replacing the web roles with app servers.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I think it was still Azure websites, or it was just renamed already. Because they were a bit more lightweight, simple deployment package, and all the scaling options you need, and scaled out much faster. And so that made a lot of sense. And we were also already after became a success. So straight away, completely rebuilding the platform to a bit more scalable, separated services. Created some domains in there, and did nice vertical slices already. And so we required APIs, which we could also host in an app service. And from that, we started to remove the last workers, and we went to web jobs still, I think, most of the stuff.
Yeah, probably.
And I think, a couple of years in, I think 2017 or something, the functions actually became stable.
And then the migration from web jobs to functions wasn't that
That was kind of the same library. So it was simple. It was easier to publish. And in the beginning, it's like I need a background service, but the background service need to run on Azure Web Apps. So you deployed basically your website, and in the background, it had those hosts, but you were running a dummy front basically. So we did that and started moving out to functions. Always went on the newest parts. At some point, we were a bit limited in like a bit more performance compute in our background jobs. Function we're never used for HTTP traffic as APIs. We had normal API setup for that, but we did add some time jobs. You can imagine things like notifications and like daily stuff, and some cleanup work. And we the rest is basically everything we could offload async, everything that's longer running than under a second, basically, where the user doesn't need a direct result of.
Or maybe just the fact that I got it.
Working on it. But like not the end result or the calculation or whatever was basically okay. That's the decision. Throw it on the bus. Let a function pick it up. But you're limited to the 5 to 10 minutes runtime. In the beginning, it was really 5. So we were limited there. Kept some services or split them a bit up weirdly. From there out, at some point we got premium, which solved that problem. But what does premium do? Like it does a lot more. So we can scale it up much more. It had the burst scaling, but it's expensive.
Especially if you're coming from consumption plan, and most of it probably fits into the
and if you want to like really granularly split out those services, and you're basically building microservices for those in premium plans, that goes really fast. But in some cases, it was really worth it because of the burst scaling, and we could handle so much stuff in the background. Or you wanted the even though it was async, you wanted to not have the cold start. So that was also a reason for premium. There are all kinds of variations. And what we also saw at some point is like, the durable framework is actually a really great thing to do. I think during all those evolutions, every time functions had something new, I had a new topic for a talk, so that was fun.
Or a GitHub repo, or pulling your hair out because migrating from one to the other might take a little bit more.
Well, always started like this. Is like I saw this is soon possible, so let's start building it already, running into all the problems, write a blog post, and at some point it's like it's almost done, and now can. A lot of fun actually, but you see all the time moving, and at some point. Infrastructure as code became a more normal thing. If you started a decade ago, you didn't have AIC. We didn't have the Azure Resource Manager on everything. So how do you do that if you have literally like 4,000 Azure resources running around?
You do a lot of clicking.
You do a lot of clicking, and you don't know what was clicked before. But by continuously improving, taking the new parts for a spin, at some point, you replaced everything again.
Yep.
While you're building features, and it's never, we need to start over. We have big migrations, or like it's on the fly. You swap out the small parts, what doesn't work or doesn't fit yet, or you drop or you leave it for a while, and at some point you touched everything, you replaced everything, and everything has a nice fitting. Mm-hmm. It's the same as server size. So a server size, like domain size, like sometimes you split something up where it shouldn't be split, and sometimes something grows and it's like, this is getting heavy.
And sometimes it's just a new way of looking at things, or a new feature maybe that comes in that also forces you to reevaluate the way you split up or join services.
Yeah. So we were pretty happy with our compute. So happy that profile didn't change for a long time, until at some point the whole world was doing containers, and we were doing PaaS, platform as a service. Yeah. So to me, it felt for a long time. I was like, why would I move? Like I'm almost an abstraction further than this is. But you see, like you had the AKS coming in. If I would have started at that moment, I probably would have looked at it. We didn't. And at some point, the container apps came by, and the container apps felt like functions felt in the beginning. It's like, oh, but this is the exactly minimal right thing. It doesn't have the overhead. By then, it's like, okay, I would like not to run on IaaS anymore.
It feels like the sweet point or the sweet spot between platform as a service and the complexity of what Kubernetes brings.
Yeah, really, if you just deploy, because I can imagine in some cases you want high density and high control.
But for sure, yeah.
But we are running on C# native ASP.NET, like it's all .NET Core or .NET these days, from the beginning. So it's pretty straightforward, similar pattern of hosting everywhere. So the container apps caught my eye. We did some container tests within App Service way back when it just got introduced. And it became so complex because we went from Windows to Linux. .NET wasn't there yet, like to host all the dependencies. The client libraries weren't there. So we tripped a bit on that and like left it for a while. But like last year or 2 years ago, I was like, okay, let's experiment a bit with this, and picked up some simple APIs, started running them in container apps, everything straight in bicep, everything from scratch. It was also nice to redo that profile there.
Because it also forces you to, again, reevaluate choices made and also see if maybe this new type of hosting allows for different structures or ways of doing things inside of your service.
A nice thing about Compute, especially if you build it completely stateless, you can just run it side by side.
Yep.
So you can do A/B testing, performance testing, like see what kind of profile you need, how the scaling works without any downtime. You just ship it in next to it. We already moved to front door at some point to get our ingress everywhere. So that was nice. You just put an extra origin in there and load balance. One of the fun parts we straight away saw is that if you take Azure Front Door and you have these two origins next to each other, the origin group, and you don't put the latency, there's a minimum latency difference. It will prefer the fastest one because normally that's the closest one for Front Door to host. But in this case, if you host both things in the same data center, apparently the latency was really milliseconds lower on container apps than it was on app service. So 100% of the traffic actually went there. I didn't expect that. It's like, no, I put it 50-50. It's like, well, why is the old one not used? Like, it was fun to see that that difference. Also explainable.
Did you? So you talked about Azure App Service and you looked at containerization there as well. I know that in the Linux space on app services, we now support running sidecars as well. So you can deploy either code or a container to be the main application running on your app service, and then you can have any number of sidecars be deployed to it as well. Have you looked at that scenario?
Yeah, looked at the scenario on paper. The funny part, when we started it was too early. So sometimes the moment you look at something really determines
the feasibility of it.
The feasibility and also a bit your opinion for the coming time. So it's like, no, that's not it. And I hear this now sometimes with some services where I'm really happy about. Even container apps. It's like, I ran it, but wasn't very stable. So I went to full Kubernetes. Like, okay, my experience is pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's also like when you get confronted, it's like, what does it mean for you? So we got burned by that one a bit. It's like, okay, but it's weird. It was a bit of a felt a bit of an overkill profile if you have something like container apps now. Yeah. Felt a bit more straightforward. So we decided at some point, it's like, okay, let's say we have about 20 different columns in the API. So with 20 different APIs running with different domains under the app. So we nicely split out. So in this year, we had a target to, at least do most of them or all of them. We got to 18 or something in Q1.
Nice.
So really rebuild all the apps, all the deployment profiles next to it, swap them on for one by one, while most of the devs were just working on features. So it was funny to really do that, and we had even some juniors really picking this up and doing the whole infrastructure code as code, because it's a repeatable, nice templating thing, and you actually see how this stuff is made. Because once it's in place, devs will not touch that much.
But it also asks a certain amount of maybe investment of the company itself to just allow for something like this to happen.
Yeah, and that's nice if you're the CTO.
We're doing this.
Yeah, well, like it's because it's not, in the end, like if you look at the business case, there's some work in there, of course. The hosting profile, in theory, because we went from Windows app service to container apps in Linux, which we theoretically can scale back to 0.
Yeah, and scales dynamically like crazy.
Yeah, and it's really easy to also deploy another stamp somewhere and still have a simple deployment profile going on, and everywhere the same version if you want. So it became much easier, and if you can make the decision and you see the technology, then it is an easy call. Also, what we really wanted is we have everything redundant, like in a different geolocation. So we have a lot of those elastic SQL pools. We have Cosmos everywhere. So everything is duplicated. So even worst case, full region outage, we should be online.
I think I remember a time where you came into one of the recording days and you said, so I woke up this morning and I was clicking around, and then I saw that all of our SQL databases were running in a different region.
Yep.
I mean, you didn't hear anything?
No complaints.
No complaints, but also no major alarm bells going off. And apparently something just fell over it because Western Europe, the SQL had an issue, right?
Yeah, so it was actually a simple task that this looks weird, but and it's I actually have an email. It's filled over. Who does this? The whole production environment just went to a different region, and was fun to see because our computer was still running in the other one. So you just opened up Insights and you saw the bottom, the floor of your graphs, all hitting 8 milliseconds, because nothing was faster than that because of the speed of light, basically. But everything worked. No customer complained, and we saw the Azure status page being updated all day. And at some point it was green. It's well, I'll click the button again tonight, and we're back. Yeah. So no alarms. It was really really good. I would like to see it. I even would like to be woken up for those kinds of failovers, but it was also nice that it
just so you can sit back and look at it and think,
yeah,
this is fine.
That's why we did this. No, definitely. We had some outages because of that. SQL was under heavy, I think, organization within the data center. We had some days where we just completely missed the server. And the whole pool was out, and that really sucks. So we decided to do the investment there. So we wanted to do that for our compute, even though they're storing your deployment and stuff in app service. There wasn't really a nice promise that you can it will just continue running. Only saw it somewhere 2015 or something for a day that app service was already gone in West Europe. Remember on a project we had a problem on a Friday once. So it wouldn't like to happen these days. So what we decided is to convert everything to container apps. Do some experimentation for a while, and then this year we actually pull them over, and we also deploy in the second region with a different scaling profile. So we scale to 0 there. We don't care about a cold start if we actually have a big problem. And the idea is if we grow in that market as well a bit more, and we have some market there, then the Azure front door can actually guide you to the closest compute.
Yeah, and then you can have a baseline there just for the baseline usage, and then if you need, you can scale whatever.
Yeah,
right?
So it's way cheaper than a complete stamp and like actually doing parallel deployments every time, because then you need to really. It's like, oh, we have a host there and a host there, and I need to every update you need to go to all those endpoints. And now we just push the image to the Azure Container Registry and kick off some bicep and stuff, and everything will pick it up. So that's really cool, and it really helped us in the process. Like as I said, we also went from Windows to Linux.
Yeah,
and then not only from Windows to Linux, but basically app service is running behind YARP these days. So you have front door YARP, like it's reverse proxies all the way, of course. And then it hits an IIS host with your ASP.NET executable running there. And then we went to a slightly different stack where you're running a .NET container or like a Linux container running your directly your DLL with a Kestrel behind it.
Yep.
Behind some abstracted magic of container apps, probably one of the well-known reverse proxies or web servers hooking up. So only that is different, like body size limits and stuff. You need to set that in different places because there was still a web config in the other ones somewhere deep down. You see some behavior difference with indeed large downloads, like when does it scale? Like you need to relearn all that stuff, all the behavior of the application. And then you have all the vendors that are actually in this build giving you a completely different DLL for the same library. That might behave a bit differently, or in some cases you run in, it's like, oh, we actually only had the license for the Windows version, so now we need a discussion.
It adds to the dynamic nature of cloud and your application ecosystem running there, right?
Yeah, but you see now the agility of basically the bill as well, right? The Azure bill is like you see so much fine-grained compute while you were seeing just the service plans just square there and they're scaling out. So I definitely see the potential in growing and even shrinking if you must. To host this, because we have two flavors that we can also put in there. We have the container apps as a consumption, like all of them have their own profile, but you can also define the hosts underneath and scale a bit different there. And we can pick whatever we want. And with this transformation, we really also got a grip on how to deploy these things per app and stuff like that. So if we want to slightly adjust in which container environment it runs, or we need to fiddle around with VNets or something, we can just roll out a new stamp and just kill the old one. So I think it's a good decision that we went there. Next up, what we want to do is now look at our functions.
Yeah, of course, because I mean, you were running premium, which is expensive, right?
For some cases, not everything.
But did you also? Okay, let me rephrase. Was this in the flex consumption time frame, or was that not available yet?
No, that's pretty new, right?
I think like half a year now or something. But still, we don't have it in Western Europe. We only have it in North Europe.
Yep. Location is important for us. No, the flex wasn't there, and there was, I cannot remember, there was some other thing why the flex was the exact one that wouldn't fit. Basically, a service plan would have fit our profile better, but I think that was later than premiums. So we're really like it's again timing, right? Like when does one come to market, and then you try it out, and if it's not fully finished, you might leave it for 2 years. That defines your experience a bit. So what we saw, and I think it's already for 2 years, maybe 3 already. Like there is a supported way of running Azure Functions in a container app.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an unsupported way to do that actually. I think, I don't know if that's correct, but the idea of that unsupported version is basically, here's the image that runs a function. Basically, you can run it in your own computer when you're developing, right? Here's the image that it can run it. You deploy it on it. You make sure the thing scales with the thing you're listening to, service bus or whatever. But you define that yourself. So you can run this in any container environment. That also means that the story that we heard for years, like the vendor lock-in of something like Azure Functions, like
it's non-existent.
If you want to run it on AWS, fine, run the Azure Functions there. So also, if that's if that's the thing you're worried about investing in those, like that's kind of gone. On the other hand, Functions is not only the abstraction that you have, because it's a really nice abstraction library for here's an endpoint. It has some kind of trigger just decorated. It will come in. But you also have the scaling controller. So the supported version is actually deploying not directly with a piece of infrastructure as code to the container app, but you're actually publishing, or you're defining an Azure function, which has a really weird the type field on there, which is like, this is an Azure function, comma, container app, comma, app service, comma. Like you see that it's a compound of, the identifier is a bit of, it's probably running a script to do like 10 things for you. So it was a bit confusing, but it's really nicely documented. It wasn't too clear to me. It's like, do I deploy this template in Bicep, or actually do I need to deploy the container app and the front of the function itself? Like we have a guy at the office that was eager to find everything out, and I gave him a really big list. It's like, these are my questions here, and was checking them off time, like one after the other.
It always helps to have somebody like that in the team. Yeah,
it's like it's a guy that he just finished school basically, but he wants to know how stuff works, and he wants to be precise, and he has a kind of a thing for containers and infrastructure also. It was really fun to see him just take that. And this was in my head, like, I have all these questions about this. Can you check them out? Like a day later, you had all the check marks there. So really happy with that. So it seems that we can move over most of our functions workloads. So I'm having him testing cold starts and like high scale and all the other endpoints, like, we have service bus and we have some storage queues and stuff like that. But we also have event grid. That was the first one he came to me. He's like, it doesn't even start now.
Okay.
So maybe we'll solve it. Maybe it's an actual problem, but definitely.
I'm thinking, I know that there is one trigger that actually requires your function to have a specific type of startup, so that otherwise it just doesn't even trigger for it to start. Mm-hmm. So maybe the scale to zero there could be an issue, but anyhow,
could be. I don't know.
That person's already working it, so
we'll find out there. But
I'll hear the answer next week.
Yes, definitely. But it's a continuous roller coaster, and it's sometimes also you need to be conscious with it. Like most developers I know aren't by nature drawn to the infrastructure part. So you need a few that are interested, but you also don't only want to be busy with this or that it is in the way. So it's always a bit of juggling also with, we're actually trying to build a feature, and along the way is like, is this up for grabs? Is it simple? But also experiment. Like it is cheap to burn a few hours to run the experiment, even though the intent is not to directly migrate, but to learn about it.
But that's the thing, right? And I think this is something that we've discussed previously, like a couple of times. But this is also the reason why it's important to write down why you made a certain decision. Because if you're going to be reevaluating, you're going to look at those reasons. And if one or multiple of them are no longer valid because the service changed or whatever, you need to reevaluate.
Yeah.
And otherwise, if all of those are still valid, then there's no reason to have a look at that again. But you need to write down why you took a decision, right?
Yeah, and I think that's maturity in this business. Like we do something with decision records, ADRs. Like you want to write out, and you also want to write about. Like it's a good thing to write a blog post about your experience because people will read it, and also people will point you out if it's no longer valid. Indeed.
Yep.
But it's an investment, and I think if you do this continuously, no one will actually ever say we need to rebuild everything, we need to rehost everything. You won't get in there. And honestly, like in the first decade of my career or whatever, like where you came is like, okay, this is already like 20 years in this state.
Yeah.
And just got piled on. It's really nice if you can get control, and you always were from the opinion, like if you do this constantly, you do this good, and you make pragmatic decisions, you don't go into like full all or nothing mode all the time, which can also be your thing, of course. But if you're pragmatic about it, and you keep a learning attitude, you can go far with a code base and an application without running into a wall at some point.
And that's actually, that's actually something that I see out in the wild quite a few times now, that people have made a choice, let's say 5 or 10 years ago, and they're now frantically keeping to that choice because that's the choice they made, and not reevaluating and not looking at new options or not looking at what's happening. But they're just, no, but that was our choice, so we need to stick to it.
Yeah, and honestly, like it was a good choice.
Yeah.
Like compliment them. Like it was a great choice in that time with that knowledge.
Yeah. Now let's look at what's current.
Yeah.
And what the good choice would be.
If your current
now, right?
situation is the same as 10 years ago or 5 years ago, like you probably have more of a problem with your business or not. Like in some cases, you really want to nail down. We have COBOL systems running the world.
We still do.
So, yeah. And no, I think, we're pretty happy. I think after this whole run and route, I think we are 100% bicep company. A lot of control in everything we do. And if we see something new, it's a very low-hanging fruit to try it out at least. And in some cases also to just completely just take a step into something new.
Yeah. Well, what stood out to me is when containers were first introduced, let's go there. So when containers were first introduced, I really liked their flexibility and their promise. But also for a lot of things, I thought I wouldn't move to a containerized environment because I can also do X, Y, and Z on, for instance, a platform as a service.
Yeah.
But with the continuous evolution that we can see now in all different parts of software development and hosting, I think we now also see an even added benefit, another added benefit of actually containerizing certain parts of your solution. Because like you said, for instance, container apps or running your functions on containers, but also something that I would really like to dive into, but we'll do that another time, is something like a dev container. The premise of containers has increased even further if you look at where it was first introduced a couple of years ago.
Oh, you see them used now in like AI models in a container. Here you go. It is a nice format.
Nice, packaged up, complete.
I think the biggest, if you come from platform as a service, the biggest noise was actually the really specific stuff around the orchestrators. And if you want full control, of course you're interested in all those. But I think for a lot of cases, that I've seen, I had, the pattern is now so common that you get something like container apps or even AKIs automatic or whatever. It's like knowing this fits for this fits for 80% of the people using this. So in that case, it's also really clear how to define that container. And really nice that you can actually run that container in your own development environment, probably also wrapped in your own dev container now. We also moved that one. But it's not that difficult and pretty straightforward to work with a container. I think explaining for the first time to a developer about the Docker layers and stuff can be a bit confusing, according to the old world. But you don't have to tell them about ingress and all kinds of YAML files, and they're not in your code base. Like they're not part of the deal. And again, if you need that and want that, you probably have someone that's really good at that. But this is a recipe that just works for these kinds of scenarios.
Yeah. If I were to summarize today's episode, for me it would be that software development in general, and for the cloud specifically, it constantly evolves, right? And I think your development approach and your application ecosystem should as well, because it's something like, it's a specific form of technical debt, right? If you just blindly stay on what you chose 10, 15 years ago. I'm really curious to see where we will be 5 or 10 years from now. Yeah. And if it's true that all of our software will just be AI agents, or we still have some stuff that we have running somewhere, I'm really curious to see how the evolution will continue.
Yeah, me too. It is interesting.
Thanks, man.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to Beta Talks, the podcast. Beta Talks is made possible by BetaBit Managed Software Development.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.